That was a great meditation. Great journey. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, really nice. Okay, so I'm coming back, and as you may have kind of listened and heard in the journey is, this month we're talking about spiritual communication. And years ago, I wrote an article called Receive the Answers to Your Prayers with Reiki. And it was one of those articles that I was, Reiki really came in and wanted me to write. And they're always written through channeling. And the way that I learn how to channel when I'm writing is by doing Reiki journeys to begin with, and it gives me a starting point, and then the writing flows. So the topic with Receive the Answers to Your Prayers is also about spiritual communication. And what the article talks about, in my experience, was current at the time I wrote it, was that Nelson Mandela was in the hospital and near the end of life. And I was shown how many people were praying around the world for him in every tradition, from every kind of way and meaning and style and good wishes, as well as any word can be, exchanged for prayer. It can be good intentions, blessings. It can be, well-wishing. The people from around the world were praying. And so I kind of rose up in my journey with all the spirit guides from all these different traditions and kind of observing them being here, listening to our prayers. And so when I was engaging with them more, they talked about how they are here and they do hear our intentions. They do hear our prayers. We are communicating all the time. We communicate with the earth. We communicate spiritually, mentally, physically. We communicate through our thoughts. Sometimes it's telepathic. Sometimes it's in a definite prayer style. Sometimes it's words spoken. So all different ways that we are communicating. We communicate by our actions. And so what the spirit guides were talking about is that we are pretty good about learning how to send information out or prayers out. But because of much of our cultural conditioning, we did not learn how to, or we are underdeveloped in learning how to receive the answers to those prayers. So let's take the word prayers and exchange it with communication. How do you receive spiritual guidance? How do you communicate your spiritual guidance, listening to your own spiritual guidance, and then connecting to the source of it for you? And receiving is the number one way that works. And Reiki energy helps you connect to both your ability to receive and also then connect in with the guidance you are inviting and from the sources that you are inviting them from. Because everyone here has a different way that works for you. What those sources are, what they mean to you, how you engage with them, sometimes the limitations and not even knowing what those sources are. That's a very common thing that I have discovered as a Reiki practitioner for people. Because we have grown through an age where there were often spiritual intermediaries that told you what your spiritual communication was, told you how you receive it a particular way, or here are the rules around it. And a lot of times for many people, even the ability to receive spiritual communication was even disallowed and suppressed. And even where people were told, no, you can't, you can't receive messages from God, for instance, on your own. You need somebody else to do that for you. I have a cute story with that. My granddaughter, Ava, who's 17 now, she was 5 at the time, and I always had grandma days, and she was over one day and she was sitting on my lap, just very seriously. She said, Grandma, can you talk to God even when you're not praying? And I was like, yeah, I can talk to God, and God talks back. And so I showed her, though, I put my hands on each of her chakras. And I said, but you may not hear it in words. You may hear it in all these different ways. And it could come in through your belly. It could come in through your heart. And so we went through that whole discussion. Maybe you'll receive it here, or maybe you'll receive it tomorrow instead of today. And so we had this whole discussion. I'm going to scoot down a little bit for those of you that can see. If you can't see, I'm placing my hand on the top of my head. And she said, okay, hold on. Again, she's 5. So hold on. And she takes her hand, she places it on the top of her head, and she starts twisting it like you would a jar, the lid of a jar. She's twisting it, and she says, hold on. I've had my school brain on this whole time. And when she did that and twisted the top of her head, and she said, I can hear now. I can hear it now. So it was an example to me, too, of how often cultural conditioning can cause limitations or even blocks or even absolute suppression, disbelief, fear of worthiness to receive communication, to receive your own answers. And so what the journey did today was to let Reiki help you release those kinds of limitations. Open your imagination, which is one of the great sources of where you receive your spiritual communication, your spiritual guidance. Opening your imagination and then actually allowing you to receive through that life force energy of Reiki, because it does it for you. And I think that's a really important piece to know. First of all, when you are letting go with Reiki, so in this case, maybe you're letting go of limitations to your ability to, with spiritual communication, your ability to even know how to ask for what you want, and then also how to receive it, and the ways that that works for you. Because that's the biggest thing, is each of us receives, and, if we use the word praise or sets intentions or, creates your own what you're asking for, a lot of times that's even a challenge, knowing that you can and then knowing how. So when we let go with Reiki and those limitations pop up from whatever source they're from, and really sometimes reflecting on the source that they're from is beneficial, and sometimes you just are ready to let it go. Like, you don't need to investigate it all. You don't need to know more details. You probably already know a lot of what they are already. And because so much of us have already done a lot of personal work. But even sometimes there's residuals left over, disbelief, or perhaps even one of the things you may need to let go of is concern over how this would look to others. Like, how is that? How is, your ability to spiritually communicate look to others? I think one of the most important pieces of that for me was when I realized I did not have to share my style unless people want to hear it. So I've learned that I don't really talk a lot about it. It's not suppressed, it's just choice that I'm like comfortable. Like here we can say all the things that we say, and it's okay and it's normal. And we're all interested in, well, what did you receive in the tree of life and the gift from the illumined being? So we can have those conversations. But I'm comfortable not talking that way or sharing that way with people who are not relating with it. So anyway, that's just another area that sometimes we can have to let go of. And so what Reiki will do is come in and help those releases happen that are conscious, subconscious, that you're aware of or unaware of. And the most important piece to know is that it heals what you let go of. And whatever reason it's there, all the way to its original cause, and releases you from the burden of healing what those limitations are, or healing the origin of the blocks or suppression, or for whatever reason. So then when you went to the tree of life, that's where the gifts you receive. And that's the next thing that Reiki does, is after you have let go, or even sometimes before, because there's not a lot of letting go to do, you just receive this input and receiving of the divine wisdom that wakes up your divine wisdom. It wakes up that gut, that heart, your brain, and works all of them, aligns all of them so they're working together. And so it opens you to receiving spiritual guidance from all the different variety of sources that you can receive them. And so, Robin, I think you said you had a source you wanted to share about that. Why don't you go ahead and pop in right here? Because I want to hear it too. She just told me, but I didn't hear the details.
Well, not a whole lot of details. It was just really interesting because this morning I was talking to a friend about some things, and we were walking at her house, and I was telling her about some things, and I got back into the car to come back home, and the song that came on the radio, it's an older song. I mean, it's not unpopular. It's oh gosh, I can't think of the words right now, or the title of it, but it's older. Like it was, popular when I was like a teenager, and so it's not like super common that it's going to come on the radio. And it started when I was maybe, not even a quarter mile from her house. And I was like, oh, this song is the lyrics to it. And I know the lyrics they're exactly what I need to hear right now. Like exactly. And I just, being in the listening around these topics before we come into the distance Reiki share, you really are kind of in a heightened state of listening around it. And it really, really, the song really caught my attention. And it was so exactly what I needed. It actually made me cry a little bit because it really just hit on that deep soul level. And I know that it was spiritual guidance. And even when I was in the journey today, I was like, when you're facilitating a journey, you receive answers, but then at the same time, you have to stay at a certain level of awareness, like, so you can't go super, super deep with it. And so I was just really listening to the answers in that. And it was like, you received your answers. Like, it's all going to be okay. You received your answer this morning. And at the time I knew it. And then at the same time, like, that validation is like, yeah, I did. And so there wasn't a lot that came through in the journey for me, an additional amount that came through in the journey for me, because I received my spiritual guidance before this. And I think more the point of it is that sometimes we don't trust those things. Sometimes we dismiss them. Sometimes we might even ask for more around it. And like you were saying, Colleen, like, it is this communication, it's this receiving, it's this back and forth communication. And I knew in the moment, like, oh, this is Reiki, this is my guides, this is spiritual guidance speaking to me in this moment right now, with, even though it's this song, the depth that I could have received in this journey today. Like, it was that significant. And sometimes those are the things that we might dismiss. And so that was more of the point than anything else. And I think probably if I wasn't open and listening, I think even if I wasn't like in the space for today, really listening for this subject, being in that kind of constant state, I would have still recognized it for what it is. But that also is a bit of a practice, and maybe a long time ago, I would have been like, I need multiple signs to get my answers. But in this case, I was like, this is my exact answer. And it already knew the questions that I was going to ask in my journey today. Like, it already knew those questions that I was going to ask, because I started writing them down, and it kept going, go back to the lyrics of the song. That is your guidance in this moment. And so what Colleen was saying too is that it can be outside of these deep spaces, and to not just even dismiss, but make it less than what it is. Like, oh, it's just a song that came on the radio. Like, I don't remember the last time I heard that song on the radio, and it came on right when I was in the car. Like, it started right then. So it was a pretty neat experience. And I know so many times when we come into these topics, people are like, this is exactly what I needed today. And it was exactly what I needed today. And I know it was very divinely orchestrated and very much spiritual guidance that I needed right now in this moment.
Love that. Well, and for me, I think I shared last week that it was a bumper sticker in front of my car, and on the car in front of me. And I had been irritable. I won't go into the whole story, but I had been irritable and trying not to be, because I didn't want to be, but I was in tooth pain. So I was irritable. And so something my husband was doing, minor, totally on me. He was just being him. And so this car pulled in front of us, and it had a little bumper sticker on it with a sloth that said, "Let that shit go." I have used that all week. It keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. And that's what Robin's talking about with, receiving the answers and all the different ways that it comes in. And sometimes it's those memorable ahas, and other times it's the subtle, little ones that come in that help us along. And here's the deal with why this is so relevant with Reiki.
Colleen, can I add just a little bit before you hold that thought in your mind? Because I don't want you to lose your thought. First of all, Patty put in the chat, yes, maybe looking for more complicated answers, ? Like, sometimes answers can be straightforward and simple like that. They don't have to be these complicated things. But also, I remembered what the song was. The song was, it's called The Middle. And I know for the classic oldies, this isn't like from the 70s. This is from the early 2000s and 90s. So I'm aware, but it's called The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. So a lot of you probably know that song. And it's got this bop, but at the same time, like, the lyrics are really beautiful. But what I wanted to add to this is that I actually made like a Instagram Reels or TikTok a while ago with a message that came through in a session for a client about choosing joy creates the abundance of joy. And Colleen and I have been talking a lot about joy in the last few days. And I used that song for it. And I used a cover or sample of that song in that video. So, anyways, because like I said, the lyrics are actually really beautiful. So yeah. Anyways, I just had to add that, Colleen, because we've been talking about joy like a lot in the
Yeah.
in the last few days. So another thing for you as well in the spiritual guidance.
Yeah. The energy of joy is trending.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Enjoy and don't strive so much. Okay, I'm just going to finish up and then we'll go into the breakout rooms for the Reiki shares. But anyway, what I was starting to say with the part about Reiki and things that we're doing, like we just did here, opens that consciousness within you. It truly activates that spiritual intelligence, and it activates that awakening of your cellular knowledge, your soul's knowledge, your gut brain. It activates what's going on in your heart and your mind, and working from your logic, your emotions, your instincts, your gut, all of those things, and then also connecting with your own spiritual guidance. Like what do you know from your own higher self, your own higher consciousness? And then also from your environment, from the earth, from spiritual beings, if that is, the style that you connect with. And so receiving it from all different sources, and sometimes they feel very spiritual and sometimes they're very material. They can be actual material guidance. It can be a friend that comes up. It can be and says exactly the word, or a song, or you open a book to the right comment, or you're doing the dishes and have an aha insight. And that's what Reiki does, is it connects you into that openness to receive. It actually helps you do that. It's part of its energy is receiving. As we know, we receive Reiki even as we give Reiki. So it's always that combination of that receiving and giving, receiving and knowing, receiving and, getting into your inner self. And so it helps heal the parts where we need the healing, and empowers the parts where it's already there, or sometimes it's like new things coming through, and it's available to us. And then tying it all back into, we've been doing so much with mind management, and it makes so much sense to me right now that this has been the topic. I've wondered why, like managing the mind, listening, decision making, guidance, all of those things are coming through so strongly here as we're listening. Also because so many of us are managing our empathy. There's big energy that is out in the world. So bringing this into yourself, using Reiki to create that field around you and with you, so that you can be in your own stream of thought, stream of consciousness, and be able to discern how you're listening, what guidance you're listening to, and if it's true for you. So we're going to talk more about that next week. So we're going to continue this whole topic. Spiritual research is actually part of this too. Like, that's what we could call this, where we do journeys, inquiring, asking for answers, asking for questions. So anyway, we'll go ahead and finish up now for those of you that need to get going and sign out. We're going to go into the breakout rooms for those of you that are staying to give and receive Reiki in the breakout rooms with each other. So for those of you that are signing out, we're going to go ahead and open the circle. If you want to just take a moment, close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And just look inside and say thank you to you for opening your heart, your mind, your gut, and listening to you, honoring you, taking time for you. We say thank you to each other, all of you who are here live and those who are listening later. Thank you so much, as we are so grateful to be in a community of people just contributing wellness into their own lives and loved ones in the world itself. And thank you to the enlightened ones that join us in the different ways for each of you and how that works for each of you. And the Reiki energies, the divine animal kingdom, and the tree of life today. And thank you to the teachers who came before us since ancient times, teaching us these ways, the descendants who come after. We are so very grateful to be here today, this moment in time, contributing to wellness here in the world for the people, the animals, the earth itself. And so it is. Thank you.